Rent growth has started to stall, meaning landlords are not being so aggressive in raising their rents, and we actually predict here that rents are going to drop later this year. Let's go ahead and get into it. First of all, a big thank you for all of our viewers here and getting us to over 49,000 subscribers. Looks like we'll be hitting 50K pretty soon. Thank you very much for being here. Let's start off today's report at apartmentlist.com. I actually love this website. It gives a good indicator on the cash position of today's working class, basically the renter. And home prices, that's a little bit different. People can go out and borrow a lot of money, and that can cause a surge in home prices. Rents, not so much. Most people are not taking out loans to pay their rent. Some people, unfortunately, might be putting cash advances on their credit card in order to pay the rent during this time with so many people unemployed. That's not a big part of the population, though. A lot of people pulling money out of their 401k, things like that. So yes, the numbers can be construed a little bit, misconstrued. But let's take a look at a chart here. This is a recent report here. Now, when you look at year-over-year prices or year-over-year rent rates, we're up 1.4%. But what I want to look at here is the purple line. And if you see right here, normally this time of year, if you look back at all previous years, we see a big uptick in rentals, the cost of rentals. And if you go back to 2015, 2016, rents were increasing about 3% year over year. And again, every year prior, up until this year, we saw increases in rents, or technically I should say increases in the rate of growth for rents. So now rents, they're not dropping, they're still up year over year, but we're not seeing the increase in growth like we usually do in the spring. And it's pretty obvious, right? Everybody's on lockdown. Well, I should say most of the country. We just witnessed the biggest unemployment disaster in all time, worse than the Great Depression. Right? So naturally, this is going to have people pulling back on spending, and you're going to see that in the rent growth right here. All right, now also keep in mind, this is only from March until April, March through April. So we do see the rate of rent growth has declined. It doesn't mean rents are dropping nationwide. Now, you might see rents dropping in some areas, but this is a nationwide number. Apartment List does a lot of major metropolitan areas across the country. Now, I expect to see rents, the growth of rent, to continue to decline. Now, keep in mind, a lot of people, once the economy starts opening back up, they're going to be going back to work. But I see many small businesses that are not going to be able to reopen, even with the stimulus and the federal loan program that was put out there, the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Program. All right, that may be enough to keep some of the employees on the books, but I don't see consumer spending roaring back even when things get unlocked or when businesses are starting to reopen. I see a more subdued consumer going forward, and probably a much more risk-adverse consumer, because who knows what's going to happen. Maybe this virus will come back in the fall and in the winter, the next flu season, and maybe it won't. But the fact that people don't know and they may have that fear, I think consumers are really going to pull back in spending, and we could see rents continue to drop. Maybe more people will be moving back home with their parents, more people living together. You're going to see, more cars parked at the same driveway as families start to hunker down together to try to ride out this economic downturn. Now, this index of year-over-year rent growth of 1.4% is the lowest rate that we've seen in over 5 years. Now, keep in mind, we're just now getting started, and as we get into summer, I think we're going to see a lot of people that are going to be really financially damaged by this. Remember, all the people that couldn't qualify for unemployment, and a lot of people are burning through whatever little savings they had right now. Unfortunately, a lot of people burned through those stimulus checks. Those $1,200 stimulus checks did not go very far. So the $1,200 stimulus checks did not do many people a lot of good. Maybe if you're single with no kids and living in a very low-priced area. But in most major cities, $1,200 is gone in the snap of a finger. Now, because of the sudden drop off in tourism and people taking vacations and traveling, it is the tourism dependent cities that are seeing the biggest dip month over month in rental prices. If you look down here at this map, you'll see that the drops there are the ones in the dark blue. So you do see Las Vegas right here. Also, you see a lot of blue here in Southern California, a major destination for people taking vacations to go to the coast. Of course, we see Florida here. And I've said this before, I really don't think the economy is going to fully recover. I don't think it's ever going to be the same. And I'm not trying to be negative, but just think about it. Just think about consumers. Are they going to be willing to go out and spend money on these vacations? And we talked about this last episode. And I kind of got into all the people that took vacations and did all this unnecessary spending. Are those the same people that are now trying to get unemployment and that had no emergency savings? Now, some people gave me a little bit of a hard time on that. People were saying that down in comments, people were saying that, well, people don't have savings because everything's too expensive and wages aren't increasing with the rising cost of living. And I can see that. But my point is, if you look at the sports stadiums, if you look at any amusement park like Disneyland, they're not empty. Even though 70% roughly of the country is living paycheck to paycheck, people are still spending money on those types of things. Amusement parks, paying whatever the price is now, $16, $17 to go to a movie, paying hundreds of dollars to go see a sporting event when you can watch it on TV for free or watch it on the internet for free. Now, of course, right now, hardly anyone is doing any of those things, but I'm talking about leading up to the pandemic and the lockdown. Just over the last several decades, people typically spend money as soon as they get it, paycheck to paycheck. They don't try to save. That's why you see athletes, making $5,000, $10,000 a year and more, because people throw our money at these entertainment events and sporting events and everything else. Right? A lot of people taking out huge loans to buy brand new cars versus buying a car that's a few years old, which is a very, very bad investment, if you want to call it an investment. I think anything that you put your time or energy into can be called an investment. So buying a new car when it depreciates 20% in the first year, not a good idea from a financial standpoint. But a lot of people are doing those types of things, right? Unnecessary spending, foolish spending, and that's going to bleed over into jobs. So not only are these businesses going to take a big hit from the shutdown, right? The big drop off in consumer spending, a lot of these small businesses, if they do come back and reopen, they're not going to see the same type of business that they have seen previously, right? So if you live in an overpriced city where there's a lot of tourism, of course we see New York right here, another big blue area, you're likely going to see rents correct, and we'll have to see how it plays out, but this could translate also into lower home prices, because I think consumers and people are going to be more skittish on going out and getting a huge mortgage. And even though it's very low inventory in housing right now, I think we're going to start seeing that inventory climb as a lot of financially strapped people are going to have to put their home on the market. And think about a lot of these people that went out and bought a second home, a third home as investments, and many of them weren't able to pay cash. A lot of them had to get loans, and right now we see banks giving forbearance, but that's not going to last forever, and eventually the banks are going to be wanting to get their monthly payments again. Now, it also shows us here out of this report the fastest rent growth cities, and Phoenix actually topped the list. Now, that could also be the biggest dropping, or the city with the biggest price drops in rent. We see Mesa, Nashville, Phoenix, Colorado Springs, El Paso, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Las Vegas, Austin, Texas, Corpus Christi, Texas, and Virginia Beach, Virginia. All right, so what do we think about this? What are you seeing in your city? Are you someone that's renting and maybe the landlord did not increase your rent this year? And do you see rents continuing to soften and maybe even start dropping here as we progress into the year? Or is the economy going to reopen? It's going to come roaring right back. People are going to be out spending. There's not going to be any concern. People are still going to be taking vacations, and therefore you're going to see a lot of jobs come right back and we'll get right back to normal. I kind of doubt it, but let me know what you think. And thanks for watching this report today. Hope to see you here again on the channel very soon. Bye for now.